Good afternoon. I want to tell you today the story of the world's most expensive MBA program, and I happened to attend it. Nobody nominated me. I fell into it. Just a brief background, I did not study any MBA program when I finished my engineering education. Business management schools were just beginning in those days, and somehow to a hard-boiled engineer, studying management looked like a flaky activity. And I started in Unilever, Hindustan Lever, as she said in 1967. But Hindustan Lever was a fantastic company, I think it still is, where you are put through lots of courses. And during the next 20 years, I don't know how many courses I attended on how many subjects, and I made a rough calculation that it could have cost the company anything like $25,000, $30,000 over 20 years. That's my guess, both in England and in India. And I thought I am now equipped. This is how you learn management. And then one fine day in around June 1987, I was summoned to the office of the person who was then the chairman of the company, called Ashok Ganguly. He said some nice things about what I have done for 20 years and asked me to join the board of Hindustan Lever. I was all of 41. And I said, wow, life couldn't be better. You're 41, you're in the board of Hindustan Lever, you don't even have an MBA. You know, this is cool. And it must have reflected in my gait, the way I was walking around. I was suddenly wearing a suit, and I suppose there was a bit of the swagger that must have come in as a director. Couldn't behave like a middle manager anymore. And then I was lobbying to see if I can get to the advanced management program at Harvard. And one fine day, disaster struck. I got a call from one of my colleagues, a deputy called Muktesh Pant, who's also a fairly charming fellow. Muktesh rang me up and he said, we can't find 1 crore of rupees. Now I know today with startups valued the way they are, 1 crore looks like small money. But believe me, it's big money today. It was huge money those days, equal to roughly $300,000. Now, why we could not find the 1 crore and where it was is not the meat of my story. But I just need to tell you briefly that I was the director of exports, and we in the company had entered into all sorts of strange businesses. We were exporting anything that India could get on a boat. It was shrimps, leather shoes, carpets, textiles. You think we all knew much about it because our training was in selling shampoo and soap. So we hired in a lot of people who had come from those trades. And they came with a very different sort of system of working, as one would expect. So we were trying to meld together this domain knowledge with our practices. And this particular 1 crore had vanished out of the textile business. Now, I want to explain to you what happened in my head at that time. I panicked. How can 1 crore be missing? And I had 3 options. The first option was to wait for some time, don't tell anybody, find out more. Seemed the most logical option. My second option was to try to do some other trades which would compensate for this, so that this 1 crore gets lost in the wash. And my third option was to go and tell my company, I'm sorry I screwed it up, I need help. I was in a dilemma. I went to my colleague director, who had been my mentor for many years. I said, I don't know what's happened to a crore. And he said, I don't know whether you'll ever know what happened to the crore, but what you should do is to walk to the office of Ashok Ganguly, barge in and tell him you've got a problem. It took a lot of effort for me, because most managers are not trained to admit a position of weakness. You're trained to give the impression that you are in full command of what's happening. But that's not the reality of a management career. There are many, many occasions when you don't know what the hell's going on. I took courage. Here was the great upcoming 41-year-old director of Hindustan Lever, put my tail between my legs, as they say, and went to Ashok Ganguly. And I told him, I need to talk to you. I don't know what happened. Now, Ashok Ganguly can be a fairly tough boss. And he looked at me as though my senses had departed. And he gave me a glass of water and he said, sit down, tell me what's happening. And I tell him, I don't know what's happening. A conversation ensued, which I will not go into now. But before I knew what's happening, the whole legal department, the foreign exchange department, the treasury, the cost accountants, everybody was with me, trying to help me to get to the bottom of the problem. In the company, there were all sorts of stories going around that this guy has been cut to size, he has been brought to book, his career is finished. Imagine a guy, we are all used to saying, I can't find 10 or 20 rupees, this guy can't find a crore of rupees. But then I had to go through all this. And I then learnt one of my greatest lessons. And that's why I say it was my $300,000 MBA program. That you learn in management by doing, not by being taught. Management is like a performing art. It is not a science. If you repeat the same thing 10 times, you'll get 10 different outcomes. Unlike a science, where you repeat the same thing 10 times, you'll get the same outcome. And therefore, management is very much like Bharatanatyam or Kathakali or music. The atmosphere, the context, all matters. And that is the reason why, in management, there's only one way you learn. You do, you reflect, you do again, and you go learning in your own cycle. And it took $300,000 to learn this, but I think it is the finest lesson I got. Subsequently, I have been on the Harvard program. Luckily, my career has not been too bad, and certainly this doesn't seem to have affected. And the lesson, therefore, I would like to leave with you is to know how managers learn. And really, believe me, managers learn only when they leave the management college. And that's not a reflection of management colleges. Management colleges can give you the basic grounding in accountancy, economics, marketing. But you go out and do things with your hand, and you fall down, scratch yourself, and you think about how you scratched yourself. And that's how you learn and become a better person, a better manager than you were some time back. And I'll tell you, the more management courses you attend, the more you talk to people, the more you do and learn, is the best management education you can ever have. So since there are a lot of young people here, I thought I would share this little story. And I hope that since the value of the dollar has changed, where I went for a $300,000 program, you'll have a $700,000 program. Good luck and thank you.